Hey screen printers, it's Ryan here with Ryonet. In this screen printing instructional video, we're going to answer the age-old question, to rip or not to rip. What's a rip and why do you need it anyway? Well, most screen prints are simple 1-2 color, spot color without gradients. When you have gradients, however, you need to have the ability to create halftones. Like the shirt you see I'm wearing now, a halftone gives your print depth and also gives you the ability to control and mix color to create prints like spot process and 4-color process. And without halftones, your screen doesn't have the ability to pick up or expose a gradient. To create these halftones, we have two basic options. We can create them in an artwork program using a bitmap process, or we can use the RIP software. Let's show you bitmapping first. In Photoshop, we're going to manually convert this gradient photo into halftones. To do that, we use Photoshop because it gives us the most control of the image. We bring in all the layers of the image, all the text. Those are brought in as vector elements, but we can't handle them in vector, as you'll see. So to do the actual halftoning of the image, all we're going to do is we're going to go to mode. We're going to take it out of RGB color. First, we have to grayscale and flatten it. So if you're going to do multiple layers, you have to separate that before you go to do this process. We flatten it and turn it into black and white, which is grayscaling it. Secondly, we're going to go to image and then mode again, and we're going to turn it into a bitmap, which allows us to input halftones. Now, a bitmap is the worst quality of image that we have. It's worse quality than a JPEG, so you're going to see it degrade a little bit. It does allow us to set our output settings, which is typically the DPI of your image. So I'm going to put 300 DPI, which is probably the best quality that we're going to get, and we're going to halftone that. So next, we're going to put in our frequency and our angle of the halftone, which is 45 and 22.5. We're going to use the default settings of Accurip so we can compare and contrast later. And we're going to go for a round dot. Now we see halftones pull into the image. So from far away, it looks pretty good. We're at 33% right there. However, as we zoom in, 60 and 100%, you can see the quality of the halftones is there, but it's not very good. And what really bothers me is the quality of the vector text. Now, this was smooth and crisp as a vector, but if we pull it in here, we can see how poor of quality the edge of that text is, which is what we're going to get out of a bitmap. Also, if you really zoom into these halftones, they're not controlled, they're very jagged, and it's very hard to control the quality with that. Next, to print the image, we can print it with our standard Epson printer. It's a photo printer, so it works best. We can't use all black because we don't have a RIP controlling the ink itself, so we can just have to use color cards or pull from one black. We do have to go to print settings, and we want to choose some advanced print settings. Best settings to use is premium glossy photo paper, and then best quality photo. Save, and then print. Great. As you can see, we have successfully printed halftones by bitmapping out of Photoshop and using an Epson 1430 printer with waterproof film. As you can see, because a bitmap is such a low quality form of image, we have a very jagged edge. We're not able to handle vector text, and the halftones kind of go all over the place. They're not crisp, they're not precise, and we actually have halftones added into the art right here on the edge. When we see this design screen printed, which we're doing using pitch black green Galaxy water-based ink through a high mesh 305 mesh screen, which will give us that retention of detail with that high mesh. We'll see what kind of results we get. So we're going to flood up on this, and then we're going to be doing a push print. And we're printing onto paper to capture as much detail as we can. So overall, it looks pretty good. Starting out of the face, we can tell it's the face. It is a little grainy. Coming down on the arm, we're missing some spots here. We have some really dark shadow areas. In the text that we looked at earlier, we see jagged edges and a little bit of speckling around the text. Overall, I think it came out pretty good. But I can see if we're giving this to a customer, they might want a little higher detail or consistent result. And if we're blending halftones like in 4-color process, it might not work out too well. And that's where RIP comes in. Accurip gives you the ability to control the halftone mechanically through the software, as well as control the ink and the density. Accurip also makes creating halftones easy, so let's jump into the computer and see how it works. First of all, we're using Illustrator. Can also use Corel or Photoshop, but since we have text, we want to keep that text as a vector element. So we're going to keep the quality of the vector there by using a vector program like Illustrator or Corel Draw. By using the RIP, we also keep the quality of the vector there. Second, we don't have to grayscale this because the RIP will automatically print up the grayscale or the tones in this gradient print. Now let's open Accurip and show you how to run the process through Accurip. So first of all, we'll pull up Accurip Black Pearl. Simply open it up. Very simple program, not intensive on your resources for your computer. Very simple to see your settings in Accurip. Once you get it set up, you typically don't have to play with these. We have the same Epson printer as we printed with before. However, we're going to print with all black mode because our RIP has the control of all the cartridges. We can also speed this up and make the films darker by printing in all black mode. Next, we configure our halftones. Once again, our default settings are 22.5 degrees, recommended for all types of prints, and 45-line medium halftone frequency. And that's literally all you have to do. The RIP does the rest. Simply go back to the artwork program, go to File, go to Print, select your Accurip printer, your defaulted size to a 13x19, hit Print, it sends it to the RIP, and you're off to the races. And here is the film printed out of Illustrator using Accurip. Wow. As you can see, because the RIP handles vector elements and we printed out of Illustrator, our lines are crisp and smooth, and the halftones are much more controlled and have a lot more detail. You can also see how clean and dense the film is because the Accurip controlled the all-black BlackMax system in the Epson printer. Let's see how the Accurip version prints. We're using the same ink, pitch black water base, and the same screen mesh, 305 to capture the detail. One solid print. Let's check out the result. Starting at his face, we see that because Accurip controls the halftones, we have a lot brighter and more consistent image, and Accurip controls the dot gain. Coming down to his hand and his arm, we can actually see the roll-off from the shadows and the depth of the print. And finally, down to the text. Accurip retained the vector integrity of this image, printed through Illustrator, and there's no bleeding around the text. It's extremely crisp. As we can see from comparing the two prints, Accurip does give us a little bit more control, a little bit finer detail, and a little higher quality of image. But really, we're looking at different strokes for different folks. If you're an artist and you just want to create, simple halftone prints, bitmapping may be a great option because it's free. If you're a screen printer and selling your work, you want to do more than one color stuff, you want to do 4-color process, simulated process, and you're doing it professionally, charging money for it, Accurip gives you the ability to control, makes your life a lot easier, and gives your customer a better quality product. Check out more information on Accurip available on screenprinting.com, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more awesome screen printing videos.